Critical thinking is not a modern invention. It is a human imperative that has evolved across era. In this presentation, we will examine a narrative from Chandogya Upanishad written nearly 3 millennia ago. While rooted in the pre-modern era, where the truth is often grounded in the tradition and authority, we will demonstrate how the pedagogical method used within it anticipate the modern era, reliance on empirical verification, and ultimately align with meta-modern synthesis of object, science, and subjective meaning. We begin by examining a classical socio-cultural psychological framework system where the authority and inquiry collide.
Father, I have returned. For 12 years I have studied under the greatest masters. I have memorized the Vedas, mastered grammar, logic and the rites. There is no text I have not read, no debate I cannot win.
You have acquired a vast vocabulary, Svetaketu. You possess deep epistemological data. You know the names and functions of many things. But tell me, amidst all of this learning, did you ask your teachers for the specific instruction by which the unheard becomes heard, by which the unthought becomes thought, and the ununderstood becomes understood?
How can such a teaching exist? If one knows the text, one knows reality. My teachers did not impart this. What is the fundamental nature, the isness of reality, Father?
You mistake the map for the territory, my son. You know the names of gold and iron, but do you know their essence? We are speaking of the is-ness of reality, the fundamental ontology that persists when all names and forms are stripped away.
Here we encounter the primary issue in our dialectical framework. Svetaketu suffers from a cognitive bias. He equates the accumulation of information with fundamental understanding. Uddalaka introduces the is-ness problem. How do we define what something truly is beyond its superficial, culturally assigned labels? To answer this, Uddalaka must shift the paradigm from authoritative dogma to a structured, observable framework.
Words will no longer serve us. We must observe. Take this solid lump of salt.
It is heavy, crystalline and defined in its boundaries.
Place it into this vessel of water. Change nothing else. Do not agitate the water. Leave it exactly as it is and return to me when the sun rises tomorrow.
The parameters are set, but what does a simple household action have to do with the fundamental essence of reality, Father?
Patience is the prerequisite of observation. We will let time and physics act.
In this sequence, we witness the initiation of a formal thought experiment deeply tied to the philosophy of science. Uddalaka is isolating variables. He sets up physical, empirical constraints. In our dialectical flowchart, this is the disjunction. The complex, abstract problem of universal essence has been disjoined and mapped onto a highly specific, observable, physical system, salt and water. This is the hallmark of modern empirical science, stepping out of pure theory to test a hypothesis against physical reality.
The night has passed. Bring me the salt you placed in the water.
I cannot, Father. The physical form is entirely gone. It has dissolved. To the eye, the salt no longer exists.
My son, do not rely on sight alone when the form changes. Sip the water from the surface. What is the nature of it? Tell me, my son.
It is distinctly salty, Father.
Take a sip from the exact center of the vessel. Then tell me, how does it taste?
It is equally salty, Father.
Okay, now draw water from the very bottom, where the crystal once rested. What do you observe?
It remains similarly salty. The physical boundaries of the salts are destroyed, yet its property has permeated every single drop of this water evenly.
You may throw the water away and sit with me. You could not see or grasp the salt, yet it's the is-ness that remains, my son. It's the is-ness.
This is the summary extraction phase. Svetaketu is forced to apply multiple reasoning methods. First, inductive reasoning by systematically sampling specific individual drops from the top, middle, and bottom. He builds a generalized data set that the entire vessel is salty. Second, and more importantly, he uses abductive reasoning. Since visual evidence of the salt is gone, he must infer the best possible explanation for the sensory data. The only logical abductive conclusion is that the salt's fundamental essence persists invisibly, maintaining its properties independent of its macroscopic form.
You see now, Svetaketu, the salt did not cease to be. It merely became too subtle for your eyes to perceive, though its truth was undeniably present in the whole.
Yes, Father. The invisible essence is the reality, not the visible shape.
Good. Now apply this micro observation to the macrocosm. Just as this subtle, invisible essence of salt pervades the water, an invisible, subtle essence, a fundamental consciousness, a universal is-ness, pervades the entirety of all existence. It is the root of all the things. And that subtle essence, Tat Tvam Si. You are that, Svetaketu. You are that.
I understand now, Father. The universal law resides within the individual itself.
This final conceptual leap completes the dialectical framework through universalization. Uddalaka employs deductive reasoning. The major premise, fundamental essences, permeate physical mediums invisibly. The minor premise, human beings and the cosmos are physical mediums. The logical conclusion, a fundamental, unifying essence permeates us all. The issue introduced in Chapter 1 has been successfully resolved through structured logic.
To conclude our analysis, we look at the evolution of critical thinking. The Chandogya Upanishad is the text of pre-modern era, ultimately seeking for theological and metaphysical harmony. Yet, Uddalaka does not demand a blind faith. He utilizes a rigorously modern conceptual basis, rational inquiry, practicism and superficial appearances and empirical verification. By taking this ancient theological truth and analyzing it through the lens of modern scientific methodology and the formal logic, the project represents the meta-modern approach. We are integrating objective analysis and subjective meaning making, provided that the tool of critical thinking, deductive, inductive, abductive and structured dialects are timeless mechanism of discovering what truly is.